Thanks very much. Administrator Sheldon, on April 23rd, Daniel Coogan, for the EPA, filed a sworn statement in court that said, and I quote here, EPA leadership conducted an individualized grant-by-grant review to determine which grants should continue. He made that statement under oath, and on the following page of his declaration, he said that there were approximately 377 grantees that had received cancellation notices and another 404 grantees who would receive notices within the next 2 weeks.
Hey everyone, welcome back to True Voice with Andrew. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button because we're all about cutting through the noise and getting to the real facts. Today, I'm reacting to Senator Sheldon Whitehouse's recent video where he calls out the EPA Administrator on some seriously troubling contradictions. Let's dive in.
For a total, by my math, of 781 total grantees. Do you dispute his testimony that there were 781 individual grants at issue?
The exact number I don't have offhand, but
you don't dispute it. So let's say that it's 781 or thereabouts.
I did those myself.
His testimony under oath was that that took place. Then, and I'd ask unanimous consent that that declaration of Daniel Coogan be made an exhibit. Then, on May 6th, Travis Voiles of EPA made the following statement, also under oath, also in a court filing. He said, on February 25th, 2025, I conducted an individualized review of EPA grant programs. That day, I decided that certain grant programs should be terminated for policy reasons. So there are three things about that Voiles statement that are noteworthy. First, the date. He said that he did this all on February 25th, which is interesting, because if he put in a 10-hour day, that's 600 minutes of time for 781 grant applications, which means he would have had to conclude his review of each of them in 45 seconds without even a bathroom break. The second thing about the statement is that he said, I conducted, not you conducted, Administrator Sheldon, not leadership conducted. He said he conducted, and he said that under oath. The third thing that was interesting is that he dropped in a weasel word, programs. He didn't say individualized review of grants. He said individualized review of grant programs. Mr. Sheldon, is there a difference between a grant and a grant program?
Well, you have individual grants inside of a grant program.
And you could have dozens or even hundreds of individual grants inside of a grant program, correct?
I know for a fact that Travis Voiles individually reviewed every single grant individually, and I know that I've reviewed every single grant individually, and I also know that
is
Travis
not what
Voiles
the sworn testimony indicates. Let me reclaim my time here.
But the fact
on
is,
May 16th,
we both individually reviewed all of the grants, and I know that he was working on it every single day, not just on one day.
Well, that's not what his sworn testimony was. And on May 16th, DOJ career lawyers who are under an obligation of candor to the tribunal, upon which their right to practice law depends, filed a pleading in federal court that conceded that you had not done individualized grant-by-grant reviews. They were not contesting that APA failed to do an individualized review. In court, they admitted, in fact, their language is, defendants do not contest judgment on the merits of plaintiffs' APA claims. I'd ask that the reply be put into the record, that the Voiles declaration be put into the record, and that an inside EPA news report that discusses that court proceeding be put into the record.
Without objection.
And then yesterday, you stated during your House E&C hearing that you personally reviewed all these grants. Here's what you said. I was the one who made the decision. And I made the decision after doing individual review. I personally reviewed every single grant that I canceled. Now, you guys are going to have to start getting your stories straight, because there are three completely different statements, and they cannot all be true. It cannot be that Voiles personally, himself, conducted the review
Did.
of 781,
He did.
and that
I
Coogan
did.
saw to it that it was individually done.
Others did. It's a crazy concept, Senator, but maybe more than one person was individually reviewing these grants. Maybe they were working on it for more than one day, Senator. Have
Will you
thought
show?
about that concept?
Will you?
What about the fact
When
that
their
when each of
testimony
these,
is that they did it all on one day,
I
no, I do
announced
not.
every single time
I do not
that I
agree
was
with that,
canceling the grant,
Administrator.
Senator.
He swore in court that he did it on one day. So you
make a
can't now come in and say that that's
decision
false.
on a day after you worked on it,
He
busting
didn't
your
say.
ass for a while to get all of your ducks lined up,
That's
to
not
do
what
all
he
the
said.
research, to ask questions, to make sure you're making responsible decisions.
None of that is what he
Because they're
said.
not worried that there's going to be some ranking member at the
None of that
CEPW
is what he
committee
said.
who doesn't care about the facts.
None of that is what he said. I'm using the facts as your
I
employees
conduct an
stated them.
individual review of everything, and that concept doesn't
When?
work for you.
When did you conduct an individualized
Work on
review
it every
of
single
781
day, because
grants?
we have a zero tolerance
Will you
policy
show me
towards
your
wasting
schedule?
dollars. We inherit something.
Will-
You don't care about wasting money.
Will you show me
you
your
don't care about
schedule?
wasting money, but the Trump administration does, Senator.
Will you show me your schedule?
Our schedule's publicly released. We don't put on the schedule every single
Will
moment
you
of
show
the
me
day
your
that
schedule
It's
to
publicly
prove
released.
your assertion
I'm
that
here
you
under
did
oath,
individualized
Senator.
review of
They're
781?
under oath telling you that I was reviewing this stuff and working on it almost every single day.
And the
Why?
problem
Because
with
when I
that-
was before this committee, I was asked by Senator Ricketts, if confirmed, would I immediately make this a top priority to go through all the grant funding going through EPA to make sure that we are cracking down on every waste, every aspect of abuse, because I have to come back here in front of Senator Ricketts today. And even though you don't care about wasting tax dollars, Senator Ricketts does.
And the
I'm going to
problem-
do my job because the American public
And the
cares
problem-
about us not wasting tax dollars.
And the problem with your assertion here today is that it is belied by your own employees' sworn statements in court and by the decision of the
Senator,
Department of
you're not
Justice
grasping
to
the fact-
admit that what you
No,
say
you're
isn't
not
true.
grasping the fact that we would have multiple employees looking at these grants. That concept just escapes you like that's even a possibility.
The only
You
thing
come
about
here
that is that
and
that's
you don't
not
care
true.
about 99% of this story.
That's not true according to your own
You're not
employees'
grasping
testimony.
it, Senator. I don't know what to say to you. You're insisting on the fact
I'm
that
insisting on the facts.
that
That's
he
exactly
only-
what I'm insisting
Yes,
on. I'm
okay.
insisting on the facts, and I now have
I will
three
say
different
again
versions of the facts,
that Travis
including
Hoyles
Department
and
of
I
Justice
and others
lawyers
are working on this every
who
single
admitted
day that
in
we're
court that
office.
what you're saying
and we're
now
not going
is
to
not
waste
true.
dollars just because you insist on EPA lighting taxpayer dollars on fire. The American taxpayers, they put President Trump in office because of people like you. They have Republicans in charge of the House and Senate because of people like you. Because you don't care about 99% of this story. You don't want me to go through the list of all the evidence of waste and abuse. You
No,
don't
what I
care
want you to do,
in conflicts of interest.
What I
don't
want
care
you to
about
do-
unqualified recipients. You don't care about
what I
reduced
want you to
agency
do
oversight.
is explain why the Department of Justice lawyers representing EPA in court under a duty of candor have said that everything you've just said isn't true. That's what I want. Get me that answer.
I'm here before this committee
I've
under
exceeded my
oath.
time. I'll let the chairman take back the gavel.
Thank you. All right, well, we seem to have a little bit of a disagreement. Perhaps we can work on this in the future about the difference between the discrepancy here. Does that sound fair?
Absolutely. I think getting to the basis and the bottom of this dispute is very important, and the facts actually matter here.
All right.
All right, first off, I have to say, Senator Whitehouse is doing the kind of accountability work we need more of in Washington. This isn't about partisan games. It's about protecting taxpayer dollars and making sure our government agencies aren't playing fast and loose with the truth. What stands out immediately is the blatant inconsistency in the EPA's story. We have sworn statements in court saying they did an individualized review of over 700 grant cancellations. Then, we hear from an EPA official claiming the whole thing was done in one single day. That's just absurd. No one can seriously believe you can review hundreds of grants thoroughly and responsibly in less than an hour. And then the EPA Administrator says he personally reviewed all those grants himself. But DOJ lawyers later admit that's simply not true. This is not a matter of political opinion. It's a fact. And facts matter. As a left-wing patriot, I'm deeply committed to protecting our environment and supporting effective climate action. But that commitment also means we must hold our agencies accountable. Wasting taxpayer money on sloppy or misleading processes only undermines our progress and erodes public trust. What frustrates me the most is the dismissive attitude toward the truth that we see here. Whitehouse points out that the EPA leadership can't even get their story straight in sworn court filings and congressional hearings. That's a serious problem. When government officials lie or mislead, it's not just a technical issue, it affects real people, real programs, and ultimately, the future of our planet. The other thing I appreciate is how Whitehouse connects this to the bigger political picture. People voted for change because they want their money to be spent wisely and their government to be honest. And when agencies like the EPA seem to flout those principles, it fuels cynicism and hands the narrative over to those who want to roll back environmental protections altogether. So my takeaway? We need more leaders like Senator Whitehouse who insist on facts and transparency, no matter how uncomfortable the truth is. We can fight for the environment and fight wasteful bureaucracy at the same time. If you care about holding power accountable and want to hear more honest breakdowns like this, don't forget to subscribe to True Voice. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you think about this EPA controversy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.